Hey everyone, it's Marcus, the conduit of Unbroken, walking on new ground. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about my particular spinal cord injury and that good health is a precious gift from God. And I don't know if more true words have ever been spoken. And to be quite honest and sincere, I don't know if I truly appreciated my good health before my accident. I took it for granted, and I was not living in a state of having an attitude of gratitude for my good health until it was taken away. And then I really was forced to appreciate what was remaining after my spinal cord injury. So I am what they consider medically a incomplete paraplegic. So my spinal cord was punctured but not severed, and that gave me hope for the future. Now, any spinal cord damage can cause long-term paralysis. So I experienced what they call burst fractures. My L1 and T12 vertebrae both burst apart when I had my accident, and part of the L1 vertebrae punctured my spinal cord. Now, I've heard of people who sneezed really hard, moved their back the wrong way, and just bruised their spinal cord, and they were paralyzed and never walked again. The spinal cord is a very susceptible to damage organ. Now, I could go into complete detail of how the spinal cord works with medical, terminology, the neurons and the axons that go up and down the spinal cord, or the medulla oblongata, or whatever it is, up at the very top or the bottom of the brain stem. The best way I could explain how the spinal cord works is if your entire body was connected with electrical cords, and the computer is your brain, and the computer has all the cords that go to different parts of the body, telling it to move its your legs, arms, whatever the case may be. Once those electrical cords are cut, the body cannot grow the wires back together, and from that point below, you're at a loss. It no longer works. If the spinal cord is completely severed, right now there is no technology to rebuild that, which is very unfortunate, and I've discussed this in the past. So mine was an incomplete injury. So my spinal cord wasn't completely severed. Like I mentioned, it was severely punctured, which is enough to shut down any movement below that point. And mine was at the L1 T12 level. So I lost everything, no movement whatsoever. After my injury, I could not move my legs at all, nothing, no toes, no knees, no hips. I lost bowel, bladder, sexual, all that. It was gone. And they said that it probably was never going to come back. Besides having the spinal cord injury, I remember I also had a closed head injury, and I had double vision. And the only way to make the double vision go away was to wear an eye patch. If I closed one eye, then the double vision went away. But if I used both my eyes, then, it was horrible. I'd get double vision. And I remember asking the neurosurgeon, I'm like, so, when does this go away? And he's like, that might not ever go away. You want to talk about a difficult download. Here I am, 25 years old, went from being a strapping young man, could do anything, nothing I couldn't do, to all of a sudden not just being paralyzed, but sitting in a wheelchair with a pirate's eye patch. Tough days behind me for sure. So, the rest of my spinal cord was preserved during my injury because I landed in the cold water. And I firmly believe if I hadn't landed in that cold water, that I never would have gained my... spoiler alert, might want to read the book on that one. I don't want to go too much further or how that happened. And so, I don't know if anyone will ever see these videos or who will see these videos. I just wanted to explain why maybe a lot of people encouraged me to write a book, and the fact that I regained my mobility against all odds. Now I am here to consciously admit to the level of injury that I sustained. My spinal cord was not completely severed. Those injuries are almost nearly impossible to come back from. I don't know of anyone that had their spinal cord completely severed that regained the mobility. So as a human body experiences these injuries in different parts of the body, from that point forward, once the cord is damaged, there's no signals going from the brain. They're not getting through. And unfortunately, some people that are higher injuries, then they become, the quadriplegics, or even the very high cervical sections. They will become susceptible to not even be able to breathe on their own. And today we're in a medical age where they can put them on a breathing apparatus. No movement. If they do gain some independence, it's blowing into a tube that moves their wheelchair around. And my heart definitely goes out to those individuals. I think a spinal cord, I'm not trying to gauge one injury compared to the next. Any of them are bad. Spinal cords injuries, I think, are some of the absolutely most deplorable injuries. And I'm very, very upset with the world we live in, because as someone who has sustained that type of injury, I look at the trillions of dollars that we throw away. I don't even know where it goes, right? As Americans, there's trillions of dollars, billions and trillions of dollars that just go missing. And then we spend billions and trillions of dollars sending probes to, the outer galaxy. And we have people suffering this deplorable injury, and we're not funneling money to healing, and we're just squandering it and wasting it. And I'm not saying that astronauts are the worst people to waste money on. I'm just saying, hey, let's focus on what's going here on this planet, right? Let's fix the spinal cord injury so that people don't have to go through such deplorable suffering. And I don't know if I feel really great about labeling, that type of challenge as suffering or deplorable. But you know what? I'm speaking from my heart, and it is. When you lose, the inability to, or the ability to, go to the bathroom, or to take care of yourself, or to feed yourself, or to even breathe on your own, to me, that borderlines on pretty deplorable. And I really wish we would come together as a society, as a civilization, and say, maybe let's not spend $1 trillion on some probe. How about we figure out how to fix the spinal cord, right? Because these injuries are occurring every day. They're going to continue to occur, and they really should be addressed. And this injury, I think we have the capacity to find a way to repair these spinal cords. Like I said, I did stem cells. All the stem cells in the world won't help. I think they're, making progress on probes, electrical probes. Not good enough, in my opinion. Not when we are just squandering a massive amount of money on whatever we're doing and not focusing on. Now, everyone has their thing. It could be heart disease. It could be cancer. It could be Alzheimer's, dementia, anything. But I think if we could find a cure for the spinal cord, that cure would go a long way to help the topics I just discussed. So, take it from someone who lost their mobility, that, had to fall back to the fundamentals of gratitude, the fact that I could still see, with one eye at the time. Luckily, that went away. I remember one day it cleared up. I was like, whew, that was a close one. Living the rest of my life with double vision wouldn't have been really great, and luckily, because my spinal cord hadn't been completely severed and it was punctured, I had the ability to come back. In retrospect, would I have done the activity that put me in that place, knowing that this would happen? I didn't have a crystal ball then. I don't have a crystal ball now. But as much as I loved what I was doing, yeah, I'd probably give it up. Yeah, it's great and all, but not worth this. But there's also a flip side to that coin too, and the knowledge that I've acquired through the challenges that were placed in front of me because of that also, is hard to give up, because I believe that those challenges and overcoming them and learning from them made me a more spiritually aware, awakened, knowledgeable individual on my existence. So what can I really say to those who are facing challenges? You're stronger than you think. The power of prayer, the power of positive intention, and look at placebo. Look at placebo. I think that the power of pure belief, you believe it wholeheartedly with all of your DNA, all of your being, I think that mountains can be moved by pure belief. And for those that aren't facing challenges, awesome, man. Happy for you. That's super great. What could you learn from this video? Maybe, having more gratitude and appreciation for a healthy, uncovered body without injuries might expand your consciousness, or might, bring more joy to your day by just acknowledging the blessing that God bestows on us to. And like I did, I started off this life with a very strong, healthy body. And was it free will? Was it determined that this would happen? But if you're out there and you've got a healthy body, praise God and thank God for that. And, I will say this in closing. When I found, and I spoke about this iridology, I really took it to the 10th degree, because I knew that for the rest of my life, I was going to be facing some very significant physical challenges. And I was talking to my boy Intergalactic earlier in the day about this and how difficult it is to be a walking paraplegic, because I don't lose my medical status. If you were to look it up, it's not like, oh, you're a paraplegic one day and because you regain your mobility, you're no longer that. That's it. Once you have that, and I don't want to put labels on it, I am a paraplegic, an incomplete paraplegic, but a walking incomplete paraplegic. And back to my discussion with Intergalactic, I told him, dude, I'm just tired. I want to sleep. I'm tired all the time. And what I think is this: we've got an internal energy source, whatever it is, I will never know, a battery that's going to get us to whatever it is, the 70s, 80s, maybe the hundreds, who knows? And sooner or later, that battery runs out and that's it. Lights out, we're done, and hopefully we go hang out with the oneness and God and the divinity. But to me, we only have so much energy in us. And I got to tell you, I don't know what the equation would be, but every step that I take is incredibly difficult, incredibly difficult. I don't walk long distances, and if I do, I got to have walking sticks, and trust me, there's going to be a lot of pain involved, but I still do it. Why do I do it? Because I can walk. And, I'm all over the place with this particular video, but, I remember being in, rehab. There was this ladder of I wish I could be, like paraplegics, I wish I could walk, and then quadriplegics, I wish I was just a paraplegic. And so once I got out of the wheelchair, I knew that there were so many souls that had that injury that were never going to get out of the wheelchair, that would do anything to be out of a wheelchair. And that strengthened me to be like, you know what, all those people who wish they could be out of a wheelchair, I'm out of the wheelchair, and I'm going to stay out of the wheelchair. But that doesn't make it any easier. I cannot tell you how difficult it is for me to walk compared to a healthy person, someone that's never had an injury or anything like that. I don't know how to quantify it. Maybe 1,000 times more difficult to walk each step, and it wears on my battery. But every time that happens, I just go back to the attitude of gratitude that I can walk, that I can go out to the beach, I can go out to the river, I can do things that I never dive down to the bottom of the ocean, that I never would have been able to do if I hadn't regained my mobility and stuck with the determinism to get through it. But what I would give for a fully functioning, healthy body. And the iridology and the adherence to a healthy diet and, taking care of my internals made a big difference, because I don't know if I'd really want to put up with some type of neurological issue or internal issue, which is under my control at this point, on top of, physical issues. So, if you've got a healthy or even semi-healthy or not even healthy attitude of gratitude, appreciate it. So no quotes for today other than, if you have good health, you've got everything. So thanks for watching the 12th video. Appreciate your time. Please like, share, subscribe, and enjoy the blessings of the day. Until the next time, take care. And may you be well.